Hi, welcome back. Just a couple of quick slides on where you go next after completing this workbook. So well done for getting through to the end. You should be really proud of yourselves. It's a great achievement. So we've done 3 parts for this workbook. We started off with part 1, what is R and how does it work? Part 2, mapping spatial data in R, and part 3, using loops in R. So we covered quite a lot over these 3 parts, so well done with that. The question now is, what's next? Well, if you do get stuck and R Studio is not doing what you expect it to do, or if you want to try and find out some more options, Google is a really useful resource. You know, there is a huge amount of material out there on the internet on how we use R as a GIS and the different libraries and all this kind of stuff. So you will get lots of practice at searching for stuff. As I saw on Twitter recently, you know, programming is 10% remembering and 90% Googling. So even kind of professional programmers, so computer science people with far greater expertise than myself, will use Google for the reference for the code they're doing. I use it all the time in the work that I do, and you will as well. So you don't have to remember all the commands and functions. You will end up Googling for them a lot. And using the right terms is a skill in Google. One example is, I had a great question about how do you plot multiple maps in R? And so that's a great example for this. So we can Google R plotting multiple maps, and we get some search results. You'll see that Stack Overflow appears quite a bit in here, and Stack Overflow is a really useful website. It's a great resource where people ask questions and other people answer them. And 99% of the questions that you get have already been answered on Stack Overflow. So doing this sort of search means you often end up on Stack Overflow. So we've done our search for how do we plot multiple maps. This one looks reasonable, so let's have a look at that one. And when we open it up, we can see what the question is. So they've said, I've got a single shapefile. How do you plot each map? And then people can answer. And so this is one of the answers. And they're saying this is how to do it in a 4x4 grid, because they've got 16 maps they want to do. And so there's some useful information in here. And the key bit for us is this par mf row C44 line. And this par is a function for presentation or for layout. And so it's saying, you know, if we did it as 1, 2, it would plot the maps as 1 row with 2 columns. And the previous one they had 4, 4, so that'd be 4 rows and 4 columns. One thing to remember when using this is that you need to set it back to 1, 1 at the end. Otherwise, you'll always be plotting maps in a grid of 4. So do remember to turn that off when you're finished. You know, this is an example, but it shows how useful a resource Stack Exchange can be. Some other kind of general useful tips when we're doing programming and coding in R. This is a great one. They get stuck for 30 minutes without progress, stop working, do something else and come back to it. You know, there will be times where you're doing the R coding and it's working well, and there'll be times where you're doing the R coding and it's just not working, and you cannot find out why it's not working. So have a break, go and do something else, then come back to it. Top 3 programming tips: get enough sleep, go for a walk, lie down and think about it. And so this is great ways to help you get yourself in the right frame of mind to do this programming. You know, these are not technical resources, these are resources to help you do the programming yourself. You know, and there's been several times where I spent an afternoon trying to solve a particular problem in R. It's not doing something that it's supposed to do. I can't work it out. I call it a day, go and do something else, have a night's sleep. Following morning, looked at it again, took me 10 minutes to spot the problem and work out why it wasn't doing what it's supposed to. So that is really, really good advice. Equally, another thing is if you're trying to get a piece of code to do something and it's not working, if you can, have a break and tell someone about it, talk to someone, you know, explain what you're trying to do. So explain the different steps you're trying to take, you know, and even if they don't know GIS or don't know R or don't know programming, it doesn't matter. The process of you explaining it will help you sort it out in your own head. So you realize the steps and you probably see what's missing then, you know. Even if you don't have a friend or family to hand, a cat, dog, parrot, plant, whatever it will do. It's something to get you to explain the process verbally to help you see where you've gone wrong. And also, you know, this goes for many programs, but particularly in R, there's often more than one way of doing anything, any one particular task. And in the material we've covered today, I've shown you how to do things in a particular way, but there are others, and find a way that works for you. You know, different people have different preferences and there's no one right way. The key bit is, do you get the output you want? If you do, then that method works. Go for that one. Equally, there are lots and lots of different libraries for plotting spatial data. We've used the GMAP library in this exercise, but there are many others. ggplot is a relatively well-known one, and it uses a slightly different approach to dealing with maps and creating, well, you know, you can do graphs as well as maps and all sorts of interesting stuff with ggplot. In short, it's much more flexible than tmap, but it's also more complicated because you can set a lot more things. So it has its pros and cons. Another thing, kind of more general in terms of R and data science, is the tidyverse, and that's more of a kind of approach kind of package. So the DPLIR, dplyr package is part of that. There's a big movement, mainly in data science, although there's some in GIS as well, of using those sorts of approaches. And it's a really useful way of dealing with things. So if you have time and interested, do have a look at that as well. And there are many more packages out there as well, and you will come across more as you do more work in art. So if you come across something you don't know, do a bit of research. Search for it on Google, find the website, see what they say, try some of the examples. It might work really well and be really useful for what you want to do. It might not. Often there's no way of knowing until you actually try it and find out what it does. So that's the end of the course. Well done and congratulations. Do try different things. There's a lot of resources out there. So try different things using spatial data and GIS in R, and good luck.